All right. Looks like we are up and running and live. I see Iconic in chat. What's up, Iconic? Sour Lad? How you doing this afternoon? Let me move over to the jam stream layout and we will go ahead and get started. Aha. Let me make sure everything on the readout sounds good sound-wise. I see Iconic says, I'm well, super hyped with all the Evo announcements. I need to go and look at those. I haven't had a chance to go and watch all of them. I'm kind of curious to see what's on the docket for the competition this year. Since I usually try and watch some of the competitions when they're going for fighting games. So thanks for reminding me. I need to go check that out. If you can give me a rundown of what they're featuring, then I'll know what to look for. Before we get started, let me put something on the background here. All right, looks like sound is good. Iconic says there's a lot of things getting rollback. I did hear that. I know I follow Maximilian Dude, who's usually my source for up and coming fighting game news. I like that guy a lot. And he had some reactions to stuff getting rollback. Yeah, it was Samsho and DBZ Fighters getting rollback netcodes. Huge news. Hey, Core's here. What's up, Core? How you doing today? Welcome to the jam stream. I also saw an announcement on Steam, and right now the open beta for Ultimax, Persona 4 Arena Ultimax, is underway for rollback netcode, so that means it's coming relatively soon. Once that gets added to the game, I'm going to try and pick up with Fight Club again with the homies so we can play some more Persona. It was running fine before, but I think it would be better with rollback because our connections are better. Sour Lad asked, what's Samsho? Samurai Showdown. The most recent iteration was released everywhere. I still need to play that game. That's one of the fighters that I have not played yet. And I used to play the old school ones a lot. And the fact that it's getting rollback netcode is really good. Now, if they just do Soul Calibur 6, I'll be happy. Now, that's Namco Bandai. I suppose if they're going to do fighters, it's possible that they'll do Soul Calibur 6. That's one of my favorite fighting games to come out in the last couple years. And I see Core Break has redeemed Small Raku. All right. That's gonna look interesting today. Let's do this. Yeah, I've heard really good things about Samurai Showdown. That is an SNK property, and it's been around since the old days of Neo Geo. Of course, this. Oh wow, he tiny. That's me. It's gonna probably look really weird to hear her funny beatbox noises coming out of little tiny man. Well, that's okay. That's why we do it. All right, I think we're good on sound for now. So let me kind of break down what I have kind of planned for today's stream. I didn't do any specific lesson planning or anything really structured, but there was some stuff I wanted to talk about on the beatbox technique side, kind of do some sound and status checks on things I've been working on, And then one thing I do want to do after we get through kind of the more technical talk is try another run at the freestyle challenge that we did last time. And what I've done on the layout here, just to keep track of things in the future, is I've added a running thing for us to keep and just have for reference. And it's a little bit hard to see the P because I'm standing on it. But every time I do one of these freestyle challenges, for those who weren't here last time we did one, I start a timer, and my goal is to see how long I can freestyle beats without stopping, either running out of ideas or physically stopping. And then when I do stop, end the stopwatch and see how long it went. So last time we did that, we went for 11 minutes straight. So the time to beat in freestyling is 11 minutes. And so we'll do that a little bit later once I get warmed up and we work through all of the technical talk. And we'll see if we can beat the personal best record. And I see Sourlet is redeemed a hydrate. Thank you. It is warm today, and not as warm as it's been. But yeah, to kind of wrap up what Iconic was mentioning earlier, the updates to fighting games is something I'm following pretty closely as a big fighting game fan. If they aggressively keep adding rollback to other games that have been out a while, I wouldn't be opposed to trying them out and trying to learn some new ones. One thing I might be doing for the next couple weeks, I have to look in this a bit. That Capcom Fighting Collection, I think, came out. I would like to play that. And it'd be kind of fun to do that on stream, since we haven't done fighting games in a while. But other things I've had my eye on that were noted for having pretty poor netcode, things like Grand Blue Versus that look really cool. If they were added to stuff like that, then I'd definitely be interested in picking them up. I can't remember if Melty Blood, does it type Lumina, has rollback. It might. That's one I have, I just haven't played it yet. But we shall see. Alright, let's go ahead and stop this. Without further ado, let's get into warm up. I'll run through some real quick drill type beats, and then we'll move on to the discussion. There's a couple of things I wanted to talk about, and we'll keep an eye on the timer too. Iconic says fighting game night would be hype. I want to do fighting game month. It's been a little bit difficult with all the stuff I've been working on just for planning purposes, but I still want to do fighting game month. So we'll see what I'm able to get done in August. Maybe if things line up, I might be able to do that for September. We'll see, because I want to do a mix of online stream stuff, fighting games, and offline videos for YouTube. So it require recording and a bunch of other things in addition to streaming. But until we do that, I still want to look at that fighting collection, so we could do that for a stream. We'll see. All right, let's go for some warm up, and then we'll kick things off. All right. Hey, Edward's here. What's up, Edward? How are you doing today? I hope your Sunday, say Sunday, I hope your Sunday is going well. Welcome to the jam stream. All right, let me change the caption status here. I think that'll do for warm up for now. We don't need to spend a ton of time since we'll be talking through some things. Let's go down here. I'll call this tech discussion. So like we've done before on previous jam streams, where we kind of talk a little bit about the technical side of beatboxing, things specific to technique or developing sounds or things that I've been kind of looking at and working on as part of the practice and whatnot and drilling that goes into trying to get better at beatboxing. There were a couple things I wanted to sort of run through today, and one of them is going to be a little bit of an experiment because it's not something I'm terribly good at yet. I'm practicing. But we haven't talked about technicality in a bit. I think last time we had one of these streams, we talked a bit about basses, and we did kind of like a check on, which my mic is right here. We did kind of a check on the developing basses and bass techniques. I think I mentioned that I'm kind of pleased with the progression on vibration bass, and I feel like it's moving in a direction I want. I'm just going to keep practicing it more and more. But I said we'd get to technicality eventually. So we're going to kind of loop back and talk about what I've been working on and kind of the experimental things. Oh, Naked Snake's here. What's up, Snake? How are you today? Welcome to the jam stream. I hope you're well. So if we were to talk about technicality as it relates to beatboxing, we've talked about the stringing of sounds together for the sound sets or sound combos that are used as sort of filler or supplementary things for beatbox beats. So that could be just rhythmic sounds. Usually there's some sort of percussive noises that are strung together, and the more you practice them and get better at stringing those sound sets together, your ability to do them quickly improves, and they're very versatile for mixing up things in flow. So if we were to really quickly do an example just to recap what we've talked about in the past, let's say we had a real simple beat that was, let's take something like Under the Ground, right? And the beat was something like, so we have breaks or filler sections of the measures, either at the end or kind of like a loop in the rhythm. Technicality is what you fill in those gaps with, kind of like a drum set fill, where you have people improvise or add additional sounds as like a transitional part of the empty sections, so that it just adds more complexity and flavor. So in beatboxing, the way you employ that is, and it's really versatile and very open ended. There's probably hundreds of different ways to take sound sets and then factor them into the rhythms when you're playing them. And the fact that it's so freeform and open ended is why I like experimenting with it and talking about it so much. So to illustrate that basic beat, again, just kind of simplifying Under the Ground from the BGM collection, we have the main rhythm, which is just the, and then it goes for a while, then it repeats where everything cuts out and you have two kicks, and then it repeats again. Well, if you were to take technicality and add these individual filler sounds in different spots, it again adds some spice and flavor to the overall beat and lets you kind of customize and play around with it. So for this one, let's just say we're throwing in some additional hats and some additional sounds here or there and see how it would alter the beat, just to kind of show what I'm talking about in real time application. So if we were to go, and so it's a little bit kind of haphazard because I wanted to try and show a range of different things you can kind of throw in. But the technicality aspect allows you to just add. And so we're doing things like hats and I guess different kinds of hat runs. Maybe you're doubling up on kicks. So instead of just, it might be something like that to change up the kick rhythm, and adding things like a TKP, which is my favorite sound set. That's why you're hearing things like, and then you're just slowly building out the complexity of the rhythm, and it's, again, whatever you want to make it. So for things I've been working on in technicality, and feel free to ask any questions on that stuff. I always tell people when I'm talking through things, it's not like a lecture. I'm not trying to just talk at everybody. If anyone interested in beatboxing technique or interested in learning has questions about terms or anything I talk about, please just stop me, pop a chat in the question chat, and I'll try and explain things. So we talked a little bit about the core idea of technicality. It's not something new here, but the one that's been kind of like my big work in progress thing that I'm still working on, it's not exactly where I want it yet, is the TKK. The TKP, the is the one that I learned from the very beginning, but the one most beatboxers learn when they're starting out for technicality is the TKK, the and we've broken down the individual sounds a bit technique-wise in some of the older streams. So a couple of them I've referenced technicality. Usually there's a more of a tutorial type breakdown there, but the TKK is what's kind of known synonymously, even though it's not synonymous, with speed patterns. Because when you get really good at it, you can do it really fast. You're doing a T and an outward K sound, and then a rim shot is the actual. And so, like we've talked about before, the whole end goal of getting good with TKK is to be able to go and get it super fast, so that if you wanted to do real quick speed patterns in a beatboxing routine, you have it on demand and you're able to slot it in, just like we were talking about with the sample beat, and it's just there. The problem is, because it relies pretty heavily on muscle memory and being able to just maintain the mouth position, do it quickly. Like, I can do it decently fast for a little bit, and then because of my endurance, it dies off and gets kind of sloppy. And so that's what you drill. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've spent, if I'm doing something mundane, just sitting there going, just trying to get that endurance to be able to do that sound set quickly, rapid. You get that roll, and the more you do it, the more clean and pronounced it sounds. So it doesn't sound like, like wet splatterings. That's what it sounds like when you're just learning out. And then the more you do it, the cleaner and more crisp the thing gets. It's like everything else. But another thing I've been doing with the TKK, just because that's not the only real function it serves, is trying to combine it with other sound sets in technicality. So instead of, one set's just the TKP or KPT, or one's just TKK or TK or TPK or something like that, trying to string things together to make longer combos. And so if we think of like a 6 sound set, maybe TKP, the tk, and the tk. I've been experimenting with putting them together. So that's a 6 sound set that you can potentially use as filler. And if you're doing it slow, it'd sound like and then all of a sudden the whole chain that you're practicing becomes much longer. Now, what I found for the whole sort of cycle of sounds, for me, it's easier to start off with a neutral sound and then put the strung together technicality all behind it. Hey, Med's here. What's up, Med? Med says, hello, how are we doing? We're good. We're talking about beatbox technique and sound theory. So welcome to the jam stream. So what I mean by using like a neutral sound in the sound set. So if we take doing that as just the 6 sounds in one chain is doable. But if I start with a kick at the beginning, it's a little bit easier for me to sort of string them together just because my mouth is kind of in a more neutral position, if that makes sense. Let me see if I can demonstrate. So if we use like a kick and we went, that's what the sound set sounds like a little more quickly. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The sound set for the technicality portion, if you were to break it up, is the 6 sounds, but it's starting with a kick to sort of initiate the whole cycle. And that's a little bit easier for me. And so that's how I've been practicing it. So if we were to put it into practice, and again, whole idea is to take sound sets and string them together to create this kind of fill or filler effect with the different sounds. We're getting and it's a little bit of a half beat break in between, which is a little bit weird, but that allows me to sort of do it more seamlessly. It's kind of like a reset, which I'm trying to get better at kind of dropping that out so it's just consistent. So if we were to think of it like a repeated section of 7 sounds, technically, you might get let's see, TKP. There's an extra rim shot in there, my bad. So it goes 8 sounds, kick, TKP, rim shot, TKK. That's the transition. So that's how it sounds when it's looped back to back. And so it's forcing me to jump from the different mouth positions quickly and try and keep the rhythm from getting distorted and keeping it clean and getting the muscle memory going. Med says, man, I love when this guy does beatboxing. Oh, thanks, Med. That's very kind of you. I'm not a pro. I haven't been doing this that long, but beatboxing is so interesting from a musical perspective to talk about. And that's why I like doing these, just to get the dialogue going and explain things to people who might not have encountered beatboxing before. Let me fix my camera. There we go. So we talk about this more advanced, I guess technically it's an 8 sound chain of things. And you're taking the and then the and you're starting with the neutral sound, you're putting an extra rim shot in between, and that's how you're getting that. And I guess it's kind of a hip hop ish. I don't know what that time signature technically is. I think it might be just a really, really fast or weird 4/4. But you could take that as your practice pattern and then start to iterate on the pattern itself and change things for the sake of practice. And the way I kind of do that would be to pick a section and maybe repeat it. So it might be something like, maybe add hats in between, really kind of play around with the rhythm while taking that same sound set and then just maybe tweaking it a little bit here or there. So you're still doing the same kind of combinations of sounds, but you're switching things around in different places to kind of mix it up. That's also really good practice. It's a really important technique to do. We do have a question. Med says, what is the hardest beat to do, if you don't mind me asking? Oh, Med says my typing. Oh, no, I gotcha. So, hardest beat to do. I think mechanically for me, and this is something that people learn, but unless they kind of spend a lot of time practicing it in the beginning, it just depends on kind of the order of which you tackle what you want to learn technique-wise in beatboxing. But that's melodic humming and beatboxing at the same time. I'm trying to get better at it because it's really not hard. It just takes a lot of practice. But the technique to kind of break down, I'm not going to do this the best, but the whole idea of layering and having sounds doing or being done at the same time is kind of the quote-unquote magic of beatboxing for a lot of people. They think, how are you able to do all these sounds at once? It sounds physically impossible. Well, one really basic portion of that one technique is just using humming nasally through your nose and combining that with beats at the same time so that you're basically keeping all of the airflow and the melodic sounds in quotes coming out of your nose and doing everything else at the same time with your mouth. That's your percussion, your beats, and everything else. And so probably the easiest way to demonstrate that might be with like a real simple single note. Again, I'm not too good at this. I'm trying to get better because it's a really fun trick to pull because it blows people's minds when they see it. But if we take a hummed note, so maybe just like a and you force the sound to go completely out of your nose instead of out of your mouth. So not a like a sung note. It's a hummed note. So and then you do sounds percussion wise with your mouth that don't require any lung power or any breath, which is mostly lip pressure, tongue pressure, and everything else. Then you can sustain the note coming from your nose and your humming, and then layer in your percussion stuff underneath it, and it's basically happening at the same time. And so probably the easiest way might be to do something like kicks, like a light kick, which the more you practice it, the more pronounced it sounds. But a kick and PF, which you can do without breathing, a non-breathing or breathless PF snare sounds like a little bit different from a you could tell because there's not as much air behind it. And I see Iconic redeemed a hydrate. We will grab some water, especially for this. And so if you're thinking about the sounds that wouldn't require air, kind of like a the kick is going to be tough because I'm not good at doing completely breathless kicks, but for the sake of the exercise here, I'm going to try. When you're taking the hummed note, you're basically combining the breathless sounds at the same time as the hummed note. So to kind of demonstrate the best of my ability, again, I'm not too good at this. I'm trying to practice at it because it's fun. But if you have and then you add the percussion, you might get something like and the point is to get the sounds to not break up the humming. That's a little bit of air kind of leaking through, and you have the rest of the sounds going at the same time. But when you're really good at it, you basically have the whole thing just uninterrupted, and you can do things like change up the beats and whatnot. And it's a really fun technique. A little different spin on this technique that I find a little bit easier is doing a BGM or spit snare, because that one requires no lung power at all. And maybe I can demonstrate that better with a spit snare because, again, I don't have to think about it as much. Med says, that is so confusing. I thought something like that's impossible. That's why it's such a fun technique, because at its core, it's a real simple idea. You know, you're just keeping the note sustained through your nasal cavity, and obviously that's where your lung power is going, but you're using the rest of your mouth, which doesn't require any sort of breathing or lung power, to make the sounds. So let me see if I can try that with the spit snare. You see that a lot in trap beats, actually. And I've done it before. It's not completely synced up as far as, you know, doing sounds at the same time, but it sounds so close together, it's kind of hard to tell. And so if we think about like a real simplified kind of trap-ish beat, it might be something like and so that is a little bit a better example of what I'm trying to do, because if you listen to it really carefully, it sounds like the melody notes are being done at the same time as the beat, because they are. Now, you have kicks in between where the notes are falling, but you also have the snare, the hitting at the same time. And so if you don't listen to it super closely, it's like all the sounds are hitting at the same time, and it's a layering thing. Med says, it's interesting to hear how much higher your humming is in that moment. Yeah, I'm not a professionally trained singer. I do like singing and like karaoke stuff a lot. And so I'm trying to flow that into beatboxing a little bit more. But it really helps for being able to sustain notes. And I try and do this when we're making BGM tracks too. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult for me to stay on pitch. But talking about layering and kind of simultaneous sounds, to go back to Med's original question about the most difficult technique, this is something that I didn't practice a lot early on. And so I've been trying to get better at doing that, just because it offers a lot of versatility, like with that trap beat and similar type stuff. It's a pretty powerful technique. And so I plan on working on it some more. I see Saralad is heading out. Sorry I can't stay for long. Good luck jamming. All right, Saralad, thanks for tuning in and hanging out with us. Hope the rest of your Sunday goes well, and I will catch you next time. All right, so before we move on to freestyle practice, I did want to talk about another bass technique, and this is going to be tough because I'm not good at it. So you guys are getting a kind of glimpse into the work in progress side of developing sounds. We've talked a lot about sung basses, things that use your voice, your vocal cords, different parts of your throat anatomy to create bass sounds. You've got regular throat bass, the kind of the elementary bass type that people learn when they're getting into beatboxing. It's kind of a tricky technique, but once you learn it, it's just practice. We have the lower variation that pushes the sound and resonation lower in your vocal cords. Vibration bass, my personal favorite. And that's the You have vocalized chest bass, which logically comes from a chest rumble combined with a sung note. Similar in vibration, but it doesn't push strain and stress through the vocal cords. Instead, you're layering sounds together. You're getting the low rumble of chest bass with a wah 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 sung note, and you're getting wah 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 wah, and it has less rattle and it's a little bit more rounded and kind of resonant. And if you close your mouth as you're making the sound, that's how you're getting that kind of vibrationish noise. It sounds like a synth, kind of like a warble, and you're getting some like and so sung basses, right? Big three: throat, vibration, vocalized chest bass. There are some other ones that are variants, but for the sake of the discussion here, we can lump those under sung basses. The other major family that I do every once in a while, and was actually the first type of bass I learned, are the lip-based basses, or lip bass. Lip oscillations, which is just done by flapping your lips and then tightening up the corners to force the sort of resonance and reverberation to come out of the middle of your lips, and that's how you're getting a and real common technique, since it's just air power and your lips vibrating, is to add vocalization behind it so that you can have harmonizing pitches or kind of supplementary pitches and stuff like that. And you might get something like and you can do things like hollow it out, which changes and makes them sound more resonant and deeper. And it does sound like kind of like a hollow echo by opening your throat when you do that. And that's how you're getting a instead of just a you get a that's good practice for just hollow sounds in general. And so lip oscillations, again, first one I learned, pretty simple. It just takes a little bit of practice to get the positioning, and then, anyone can do that. If I was in the room with all of you folks now, I could show you how to do lip oscillations. It's very simple. To break down the technique real quick, because I can say it's simple all day, but if I don't explain it, it doesn't mean anything. If you just take your lips and do what they call horse lips, as Kendo has called it, and just don't do anything on your face, and just blow all the air out through your lips and just go. Everyone has done that probably at some point, whether they're messing around or they're frustrated. Just blow all the air out through your lips and let them flap. Just no pitch, specific vibration, anything, just let them flap. You take that sound and then tighten the corners of your mouth. So at the sides of your mouth, keep them tight, and then still have your lips flat, but focus all that sound out of the middle and keep the corners tight. And it goes from to a lot more controlled. And when you just keep the sides tight, and you can do that all day, just don't have your teeth clenched or anything. You're just forcing the air directly through the middle of your lips, and that's how you go from to, and that's your lip oscillation. You can do things like tighten up the corners of your lips to pitch the sound up a little more. So instead of, you might go, or you loosen up a little bit to drop the pitch and go, or open up the throat to make it hollow and go. And so that's real quick and nerdy explanation of lip oscillations. Well, there's another technique that I've been trying to work on because it's really fun. It's just not one I've spent a lot of time practicing, and that's actual lip bass. And if you've ever played a brass instrument in music, it is the same as buzzing. And your lips are much tighter and closer together, and you're forcing the air through, but instead of it having a lot of resonation and flapping, like you're actually getting it to buzz and creating a really much more tight, controlled sound. And so for lip bass, it might sound like, And again, mine's not super clean. I've been working on it a lot and getting better. But the whole buzzing sound, you can hear it. It's much tighter and even more controlled than the regular lip oscillation. But the more you practice it, the more you can do it consistently, and you can do really neat things like layer on sounds with lip bass. That's what the buzzing sound is. And because it's a more pronounced kind of note, if you will, you can do things like harmonize pitches and kind of complement other sounds at the same time. And that's what makes it a lot more versatile than just lip oscillations by themselves. And so I've been practicing is just one, doing the sound and trying to fit it into beats. And so you kind of could think of it almost like a really buzzy trumpet-ish type noise, but by itself it's not like a. So to kind of illustrate, I think it's the first time I've talked about this in practice. If you were to take the lip bass sound, let me see if I can hone in on a note. So we're taking and going. You can hear the fluctuation because I'm not able to just sustain notes cleanly yet, but like a. That might be as close as we're gonna get. Again, I wanted to be able to intro the sound and explain what I'm working on. But if we take that really kind of loose buzzing sound and add voice behind it, you might get something that sounds like. It actually is easier for me to force some actual vocalized sound out, and it calms that fluctuation down a little bit. So if you compare a throat bass filter like I usually do, where your mouth is slightly open and you're doing throat bass, it might sound like. And the distortion or the kind of rattliness is coming from my throat. If you're doing something like a lip bass and you're pairing it with a sung note, the distortion is coming from your lips buzzing, and it's just like a sung note that you're putting behind it. So you're flipping it. You're flipping the whole idea of the technique around. So the distortion is coming from a different place than if you're doing like a throat-based filter. And so that's been kind of what I've been practicing. Taking that buzzing sound and combining it with a melody note to come up with a bass line or something to fit into a beat. So if you were to take the. You could hear subtly, because I'm not too good at it, the texturing on the bass is different than if I was using a throat bass for the exact same type of rhythm. A throat bass filter would sound like. And it's basically the distortion and layering effects on the bass is different. And so depending on what you want in a song, in a sound, it's just another tool in your tool set. And so I'm going to be working more on lip bass specifically and refining it. And as I kind of play around with it and get better at the sound, we'll check in as part of these discussions to just see, where it goes, more different creative things we can do with it, and then slot it into beats. So I want to build out the diversity of the beats that I'm making, just so I'm not pigeonholed into just several set of sounds. That's the whole end goal. So I think that's a pretty exhaustive breakdown of some of the developing sound stuff we've been talking about. I have a lot of work to do and a lot of things to practice. But hopefully as things play out, you'll start seeing more variety and different things in the freestyle beats. And I mentioned this before when we were talking about the idea of a freestyle challenge. And I think I'm gonna follow through on this maybe at the end of the year, since I know the last jam stream is when I started keeping track of that timer. Maybe at the end of the year, what I'll do is I'll pull down the footage from all these streams and I'll cut out the challenge bits and then edit them into one supercut, one long video of all of the freestyle challenge stuff, and we'll see the evolution, right? Hopefully, as things go, the time to beat should continue to go up, and the complexity and variety should be going up as well. And so we'll see. Maybe we can do like a year-end wrap-up where we look at that and say, all right, here's what the first 11-minute personal best looks like, and here's what the 45-minute, that would be quite a challenge, but here's what a 45-minute freestyle 7 months later sounds like, and just see where we end up. I think that could be a really interesting thing to dissect when talking about the evolution and the idea of practicing and just getting better. So that being said, before we move on to BGM, let us attempt to get a new personal best for freestyle. I don't know why my camera changed. We'll leave this here. We'll put personal best here. Challenge timers here. I gotta pull up my script editor. And this should allow me to let's see if I can get this to stop. Oh, I gotta do this down here. Challenge timer. Probably should have looked at this ahead of time to make sure I did it the same as last time, but the script is doing that. Why is it doing that? There is a start and stop, but that's not what I want. Oh, is it this one? Ah, there it is. Okay, I was on the wrong script. My bad. All right. So now I can start and stop with the push of a button. So, like we did before, this is my attempt to freestyle until I either have to physically stop or I run out of ideas. So if people come or go while I'm doing this and wonder why I'm not talking to chat, then that would be why. And let me change my caption as well. I'll call this freestyle practice so people can see that when they jump into. Okay. Personal best, 11 minutes. And I'm going to try not to look at the timer because then it's going to force me to think about, how close I am to the personal best record. So I'm going to try not to look at that too much, and we'll just see how things go. So this timer starts, and let's see what happens. Switch up the drum and bass. Drop. Switch. Whew. All right. The clock has stopped at 13:13 on the dot. Oh, and I also saw we got a follow from Rebelino. I think they followed towards the beginning of that. So my apologies. I was off and running. I didn't get a chance to see your follow or your chat. Rebelino, if you're still here, thanks for the follow. Hopefully you enjoy your stay among the Space Bees. Apologize that I was in the middle of doing a challenge when you joined. Otherwise, I would have thanked you on the spot. But I very much appreciate it. Edward says, sheesh. Sheesh. Maybe we could think about adding... Well, actually, I don't know. I think that'd be cheating. I was thinking about adding an addendum to the rule for the freestyle challenge that'll let me drink water. Because you probably heard me trying to do my low basses towards the latter fourth of that, and my basses would not come out. My throat was too dry, and I'm trying to do a mix of swallowing and also subtly clearing my throat to get stuff to come through, but that's really hard. I think the pros who are well-versed in beatboxing are able to run through routines and whatnot at much greater length than anything we're doing here, but that'll be part of the practice. Hopefully, as my endurance gets better, my ability to bust out things and transition from patterns, routines, and whatnot will get better. Edward says no water. Yeah, I think adding a water break would defeat the purpose of the challenge. So we'll stick with the rules we've established. No water. So if I physically stop or run out of ideas, then the challenge ends. And we beat our old personal best, so that's good. We can update the caption here. We're going to call this 1313. Lucky number. And so in the future, next time we do one of these, time to beat 13 minutes, 13 seconds. We'll see how we do. All right. I think what we can do now is move on to working on BGM to kind of calm things down a little bit. I am sweating like crazy. And let's brainstorm some ideas for BGM. I have some stuff I want to specifically accomplish today. But before I do that, I'm going to go fry some chicken. So let's see. I'm going to put the sound back on in the background, and I will be back momentarily, and then we will get started with BGM. So I'll be back in one sec, folks. All right. Make sure my mic's back on. Oh, it feels good to sit down. All right. Edward redeems small raku. All right. Let's do it. Let's do that. Let me change my caption. Drop this down a little bit. Oh, my bad. I saw Edward's Hydrate Redeem, and then I see Red Dragon underneath with the small Raku. Also, welcome to the stream, Red Dragon. I hope you're doing well today. Thank you for the small redeem. I'll hopefully not forget to turn it off. Let me fix my mic here. All right, that should be good. I need to make sure I don't get too close. My stuff to peak a little bit. Okay, so before we get into BGM brainstorming, a little bit of an update on content and things that I'm working on. I mentioned before that I'm currently working on getting my BGM tracks distributed to public streaming platforms. I will post something official on Twitter once everything is done, but as kind of like a little sneak peek thing for you folks that are here today. Right now, I have one release worth of things on Spotify that's currently visible and live. So I have an artist profile and everything on Spotify. And if you want to listen to the slightly remastered version of the first BGM collection with the new re-recorded versions of Under the Ground and Super Bossa Nova, it is currently live. And I'm in the process. Right now, Revenant's Beats, the Halloween pack, is being processed. And then later today, I'm going to submit stream sounds. And so hopefully in the next week or so, there'll be the majority of the songs I've released up on the Spotify platform. But I'll post something on Twitter when it's kind of official. But that's just a little sneak peek for you guys if you use Spotify. My stuff is in the process of getting dumped on there. And so if you want to use the BGM tracks for content instead of having to download them and play them yourselves, you can use them streaming directly. And it's also a way to support me if you want. Currently exploring some ideas on other platforms to put them on. Probably not Amazon or iTunes because they require a price. I can't put them up there for free, probably because they're a commercial business. So I'm not going to do that. People want to download the tracks. The best way to get them for free is off Bandcamp. I've had a couple people ask me about Tidal, so I'll feel out the demand and maybe I'll do that next. I've never used the Tidal service, so I have to figure out their whole artist profile system, but it's probably similar to Spotify. So that'll be coming in the next week or so, but if you want to take a look at what's on there now, you can see the tracks. Okay, so let's go ahead and clear this off. BGM stuff, what are we doing today? So normally when we do these sessions and we brainstorm things for BGM ideas, then we kind of put stuff together, see what sticks, and try to come up with a cohesive idea for a track. We're still going to do that, but today, for this first one, this is going to be a bit more of a deliberate attempt to come up with something because it might be a little bit of a cheating thing, but I need a track to use for an upcoming project. And so this first one we're doing is going to be a hip-hop type song. And we'll play around with some ideas for tempo, bass style, and all the other instruments, but this is going to be like a more hip-hop oriented track. And so I want to think about some ideas for the bass rhythm. This one probably won't be super complicated. Maybe 3 or 4 loop tracks overall will probably be sufficient for what I'm going to be doing with this thing. As far as what I'm going to do with it, you folks will see that in the future. But I'm thinking, I've done BGM for a couple of them, the spit snare, a really kind of heavy, sharp snare. So I don't know if I necessarily want to do that for this one. Maybe we can do a layered outwards K with a couple different type of things added in, which I know I've done before, but for this one, maybe something like mid tempo. I want this one to be a little bit more mid tempo, but not fast. We're not doing like a breakbeat type thing. So maybe something like. Don't want to do offbeats like that. Let's get that recorded and play around with it. So let's see. Okay, I think that's a start. We could add some additional hats on top. Maybe like a quarter note hats on top. So it'd be something like 1 2 3 1 2. Maybe slow triplets might not be bad either. The first of the double kicks at the beginning of that rhythm is a little bit soft, but I'm hesitant to go and re-record just that because it's really easy for me to screw that up. I think it's fine the way it is. I can always fix that later if I really want to. Now we could add a click on top of the outwards case snare to give it a bit more punch. Good try. Okay, I think it's functional. I'm also going to be saving frequently. Before I do anything else, let's save our status here. I do not want to lose my work again. So we have a functional rhythm, and one thing I can do when I eventually repurpose this into a project, I can mess around with the tempo based on some other things, other factors. So like this is 96.9 beats per minute. It's about 97. Oh, I turn off the small mode. There we go. So if we adjust the BPM, we drop it down to like 86. If we wanted a slower tempo, we could do that. If we wanted to kick it way up to a faster speed, yeah, I think that'd be too quick. We'll leave it. This is almost 130. All right, we'll leave it at 97. All right, now bass. This one being kind of a more hip hop style song, I want this one to have a bit more emphasis on bass. I don't want to blow everything out and be just speaker destroying bass. But unlike some of the other ones we've done where we had moving notes or sustained notes, we're going to keep it relatively simple this time and see how it sounds. So I'm not even going to do much of a progression. In fact, it's going to be 1 2 3 1 2 3, and then go for just a much more pronounced low end sound with guitar to bass. So I'm going to turn that on and we'll see. Again, doesn't need to be too complicated for what I'm going to use this for later. So let me turn out the output. I'm going to and try and get the bass recorded so I won't be able to talk for a minute. All right, turn my mic back on. Make sure this isn't too loud. The bass is going to be kind of at the forefront. And make sure. Make sure I'm audible again. All right, we're good. So again, this is going to be a bit more of a simplified style track, but I think we can do some fun stuff with the additional tracks that we're looping here. Like I do want to add kind of a synth or like a complementary series of sounds on the third track, but we'll get there in a sec. One potential thing that I can do on this track when I actually record the perform version of this is use beat repeat. Take a section of the rhythm, leave the bass untouched. We take the rhythm and potentially repeat a section as kind of like a record cut where they're scratching back a section to repeat it. The tricky thing is because this rhythm's a little more irregular than some of the other ones, I have to be careful where I start the repeat, because if I do it in different parts of that sort of staggered double kick rhythm, it's going to repeat a different section. So if I do it around one of the snares, then we get like a repeating snare. The kick just gives us a constant kick line. Drop the intensity of the beat repeat down, and it gives us a little bit more leeway towards the section that's repeating. That's another possibility. I don't know if I want to put a filter effect on this. I'll have to think about that too. I really want to get kind of lined up for just this track right here is the song itself. Edward asked, what would reversing the bass sound like? Probably going to be really similar in rhythm. We can try it. So we're getting a little bit of like a scratch effect from the tail end of the bass, but it becomes an offbeat. And I think it's every other measure, the bass is coming in like one beat staggered because of the way it's reversed. Interesting sound. If we had a multiple note bass line that was either going up or down or moving around, it would sound a lot more interesting, I think. Like if you wanted to have bass version 1 and then we reverse it and then the melody changes. that would work pretty well. But for this, turning that off, it's pretty consistent because it's just 1, 2, 3 notes, 3 notes on the same note in succession. But let me stop this real quick. Save again, because why not? Now I want to add a some sort of complementary synth or sound effect like we've done on a lot of BGM tracks. We could try and do the pitch bend one, which we've used for the kind of B type sound, because that would be appropriate for this particular track. It's not part of any themed BGM pack like the literal BGM thing I released recently. But let me see. That's pitch bend reverb, I think. Let's mess around with that and see. Let's see what we can create. If I try and talk into pitch bend, you're getting kind of like a really distorted, almost alien noise. And if we do bass, sorry, reverb is on. If I do bass kicks into the filter for pitch bend, that's how we're getting the kind of sharp buzzing sound. So I'm gonna mess around with this and see if I can come up with something that we can slot in on this track, and then I'll turn the bass back on so we can put it all together. One thing that's interesting about the way pitch bend works, when you're inputting sound, that what's causing the pitch to go up and down is actually the intensity of the effect on the effect knob. If I really could figure out where the notes lie, I could probably duplicate the synth line from Next Episode by Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre and then probably get sued. But it does have the ability to change notes, so I'm going to mess around with that. I think I'm going to take lo-fi off. It creates a lot of fuzz, which I don't necessarily want for like a complementary synth line like this. But let's see what we can do as far as coming up with maybe a few note progression and then slot it into our beat here and see how it complements. So I'm going to turn on pitch bend again, and I'm going to mess around a couple different possibilities and record them, and we'll see what it sounds like when paired with the rhythm we've got going here. So let's see what we can get. All right, let's turn everything back on. Okay, so what we've done here is create a really simple 3-part beat, rhythm, a simple bass, and then we have the sort of B synth. I think that would be a good name for that. Now, what would that sound like if we reversed it? Oh, that's so offbeat and weird. Yeah, that doesn't work. One thing I was messing around with before I turned everything back on was the same effect that I used for the song The Stinger in the BGM pack. And that's using transpose to kick the synth level up several steps, and it's higher getting the jump in octave. Wonder what happens if we do that to the bass. Oh, it sounds terrible. That's what happens. Okay. So thinking about how this song would be performed, I think a good way to sort of structure it would be to have a couple sections that have like just the rhythm, then the bass, and then we bring in the synth, have that repeat for a bit, and then maybe have like either a drop or a cutoff, and then introduce the idea of pitching the bass up to kind of switch up the format. This particular thing doesn't need to be super long. In fact, it doesn't even really need to have a progression. But we could think about it, since I will turn this into an actual BGM track to be included in probably pack 2. Pack 2 is almost done. So let's go ahead and save this. Maybe we would have... I don't think this one necessarily I want to start with just the bass line. So maybe we start with the rhythm. Or actually we could start with the synth. Introduce it right at the beginning of the track when it starts, and then have it drop out, and then we bring in bass line, then rhythm, have that play, bring in the synth, then we do a transition, then we do the pitched up version. So let's see what that would sound like. This is actually going to be really similar in structure to Global Swarming, so I may have to play around with it a little bit. I don't think that one started with the bass coming in second, though. I'd have to go back and listen to the final version. But if we went, start the track off. Bring the bass in. Bring in the beat. Maybe go two measures and 2 measures. I like the idea of the bass cutting out every once in a while, just to give the rhythm and the synth a chance to be in the forefront. And think about how this would end and how we'd outro the track. Maybe we have a multiple repeat with the pitched up version and then everything cuts out. I don't know exactly what I want to do for that. I'll have to think about it. It's hard for me to gauge how high I want the bass to be in the track balance. If I really wanted to go for like a speaker shaking thing, I could boost it way up. But just in these headphones, hearing the playback, it's a pretty considerable low end. So I think we'll leave it the way it is for now, and then if I want to tweak that later, we can look at doing that. Okay, I think that's functional. I am not going to worry about naming this one. This will be one of the few exceptions to the rule of our whole collaborative process here on the Jam stream, because I'm going to be using this for something else. I'm going to do a final save, and we will put this one away until I need it in the future. I think it's pretty straightforward. I might tweak some things later, but I think that'll work for general purposes. So let's see how we're doing on time. Let's do one more, just regular BGM track. So let me save this into a new file. We can clear everything off, give us a fresh start. Now let's see. This time I want to experiment around with some other styles and maybe some things that we haven't really done for the BGM track list up till now. And one thing I was thinking about doing, I had this idea for a while. I've been kind of in my head trying to figure out how I wanted to implement it for an actual BGM track. And that's a more kind of constant galloping type of rhythm, which is not something I've done that I could think of off the top of my head. And so I want to play around with some different ideas, and then maybe like a bass rhythm, we'll kind of add to it, and then see what else we can kind of add for like a bass, and then other things. This one's going to be faster than the one we just did. And so for like a galloping type beat, I got to be careful that I don't start just ripping off things from other songs. But I was thinking kind of like a want it constant, something like that, with a kind of multiple triplet, almost kick, then a PF snare, and then maybe we layer in some hats or something like that, maybe some staggered hats. So if we're doing like very kind of similar in tempo to, again, running up that hill, but I don't want to do that. That'd be more like, you don't want to do that. Again, that song's everywhere. I think I mentioned that last time. So instead, we're gonna change the rhythm around a little bit and go for, and let's see if we can get that to record, and then start playing around with the different parts and adding to it. So let's see. I need to make sure I don't mess up the kicks on the second repeat there. Oh, the double didn't pick up. Maybe we slow it down a hair so it's easier for me to capture. Okay, that works. Need to get it to loop cleanly. Let me take the kick off the end. The extra kick, I think, is what's causing the tail to get a little bit muddy. Let's see if we can fix that. Okay, that changes it up slightly, but it does loop cleanly if I do it that way. So offbeat kicks at the beginning, and then the triple. Oh no, it's triple first, and then the offbeats. Okay. What if we added some hi-hats on top of this, but instead of making them like an eighth note or like a rapid, we do kind of like a more offbeat staggered thing with open and close hats. Something like something like that, and see if we can get to sync. Okay, that's pretty functional. Now we get really ambitious with it. What if we added? I'm gonna add some additional instruments here. I'm gonna leave the bass track on the second one and go to the third one. I kind of want to see if I can get a lip roll, like a repeating lip roll, recorded and see what it sounds like. I think it's gonna sound kind of weird, but that's sort of the point. So like a let's see if we can do it. That's interesting. I don't know if I'm going to keep that. I wonder what happens if we do the regular lip roll, but we do it with guitar to bass. I wonder what it does. I don't think I've ever tried that before. Since we're going to have to do bass next. Let's just see what happens. Probably gonna sound really weird. Yep, that sounds really weird. It gets so muddy because of the different types of distortion. Like, it's really not functional at all. Alright, let's mess around with a bass line. This one I don't want to be just sustained notes. We want kind of a more rapid moving bass line for this, I think. Since the rhythm is a bit faster. What's the BPM on this? Oh, this is 140. Okay, this is way faster. Alright. So if we're doing like a bass line, I'm going to go with some more rapid notes, and we'll see what the progression sounds like. So I'm going to turn it on and just noodle around here and see what I can come up with. can't do that. That's gonna get me in trouble. But similar type of rhythm, kind of a similar feel. So let's see what else we can come up with. Okay, that note progression I like a little bit better, but I'm going to need to drop the level of intensity on the guitar to bass so it gets a little bit less muddy. So let me see if I can do that again and get it cleaner. All right, let me turn that back on. Edward says BB Top type beat. I don't know who BB Top is. I know who ZZ Top are, like the rock band. Okay, I actually really like how that bass line lined up. All right, let me save this. I don't want to lose this progress so far. Edward says, like ZZ Top with bees. Aha, I gotcha. All right. That is legally distinct. That's what matters, right? I don't want to get sued. Okay, I think the lip roll was an interesting experiment, but I'm not going to keep that. Let's think about a third type of instrument to add to this. So we have the kind of galloping type beat again. This is 140 beats per minute, so this one's fast. We've got a bass line. I think I'm going to push the bass line up a little bit more in the mix. Now, what would be a good additional thing to pair with this? This is what filter. Let's mess with the settings on filter. We use the same kind of base settings on all the tracks. I don't really touch them too much for the track level effects. If we put it, let's put it at 50%. It'll be a little bit tough to hear everything, but I'm going to mess with the settings and we'll see how it changes. Oh, BPF. What does BPF stand for filters? I know LPF is low pass filter. I don't know what B what kind of pass filters be. This is high pass filter. It's less aggressive with the distortion. Oh, there's no low. Oh, there's low pass. Okay. Yeah, definitely more of a muffled type sound. I think I actually like. I think I like high pass for this. If we were gonna use it. Okay, filter rate. I think this is the. This definitely changes the balance of how it's filtering out the sound. Kind of subtle. Depth. That sounds like it's kind of affecting the kind of resonance and echoing on it. We get a little bit more kind of resonance. It's hard to kind of hard to hear the difference with depth. Oh, maybe that's what it is. Could be affecting the high end. Resonance. Okay, that level of filter causes it just become kind of like a signal frequency. That's interesting. At max resonance, it takes the whole thing and just turns it into a signal. Kind of reminds me of that was it Instagram noise that they use on when they distort what people are saying. I see Edward doesn't approve. That's a neat effect though. I don't know if I'd ever use it for anything. What else do we have? That's resonance. Cutoff. This looks like it affects how much of the track is being muted by the filter. Step rate. There's actually a lot of parameters you can tweak with the filter effect. Step rate. It's hard to tell what that does. Edward says it's more confusion than disapproval. Yeah, filter is a very interesting effect. You can do a lot with it. I use it kind of like a transition effect on a lot of my tracks, but you can do so much more. You can even customize the parameters to completely change how it interacts with some of the other effects, which is how I got that kind of synthy chime instrument that I haven't used in a bit. That's filter plus granular delay, I believe. Okay, let's think about more instruments to add on the third track here. Interesting. We take the pitch bend effect and just apply it to both tracks that are playing now. It sounds like a nightmare. Okay, I wasn't expecting that. That's just the bass synth effect. What if I apply that to just the bass? Oh, I was hoping it'd be synth hits on every note. It doesn't do that. It does the first note and then like the last note. Probably because the first note it has a bit more impact, and then the rest of it, it's not strong enough for it to pick up, I think. Basically, if you wanted to add another instrumental filter type over it, you could do that, but synth is hard to predict. Let's see, where's beat repeat? Interesting. I think beat repeat, it gets really confused because of the irregular nature of the rhythm. What about scatter? Okay, if I do 75% on beat scatter, we get something that's kind of a mix of what the beat repeat was trying to do, but it gives us kind of a more consistent rhythm. I could use something like this. This is pattern 4? Yeah, what pattern 1? Oh, that is really interesting. I don't know if you can hear that. It is almost like a perfect kind of recut of the rhythm. Oh, I think it's just barely like a half beat off. I think one of the extra kicks is causing it to get a little bit weird. But it'd be cool if it was kind of like a. That's kind of what I was thinking it would try to do. Oh, it's so close. Like there's a hiccup. Let me take the scatter off of the bass line. It's so close. I'm gonna leave that and see if I can tweak it. It almost works. And like 80% there. That would be a really cool switch up for the rhythm. This is the reverse on the bass line. Yeah, that rhythm is a little bit weird. Let's try and just listen. Let's isolate the beat and see. This is with the beat repeat on it, 75%. It's close. It's really close. It's not perfect, but I think we might be able to use that for a rhythm switch up. Let's see. Let's assume we have a regular version of the rhythm and the bass line. Let me switch it up. Oh boy, it doesn't even. I don't even know where to start it. Oh yeah, it kind of goes off the rails, but it's so close to sounding like a really cool switch up. Yeah, oh man, I think the bass rhythm was a little bit less weird. We could actually use that as a really cool tempo switch up. Okay. Now, what would be a third potential instrument to add to this? I really like the bass beat. I like the bass line. But what else would make sense? We could try that chime input instrument I mentioned earlier. It's not very loud though, so Edward says, to me they both sound good but don't really fit together. You're talking about the bass line and the rhythm? I think it's part of the problem is the beat is really irregular and the bass line is very straightforward. It'd be one thing, it'd be nice if the... Oh, Edward says the regular beat and the switch up one. Ah, yeah. I think the bass rhythm and the bass line that we're listening to right now fit together fine. But the switch up one, it's so close. What if we did this? Let me turn off the bass line. And we just isolate the rhythm again. Yeah. Part of the problem is it doesn't start on the measure. It's got a hiccup because what it's doing is it's beat scattering and then it's taking the rhythm and just the way that it's recorded, it has like an off hiccup in the very beginning. And then after the repeat, it sounds a little bit better. But yeah, it's not quite there. That's okay. To remember that in the future. Because doing a beat bass rhythm like the one that the switch up is trying to do, like something like that could be cool for an idea in the future. I will consider that. Maybe if we simplify it a bit, it'll be something that can be manipulated a little bit better. But I don't know. We'll see. A lot of possibilities with that one. So let's see. Let's do this. We'll keep the bass line off for a moment. Let me add the presets for that weird synth chime. Then we'll see if we can pair up something that works with this track and before we wrap up for the day today. So let's see. We want filter. All right. I think I can still talk normally, but I don't have the boost on my mic, so I have to speak up a little bit. And then we want granular delay, I believe. There we go. So now, this is the one that creates the metallic kind of reverberation on your voice. And we're going to use click for this, I believe. So... All right. So what we added here is like a really subtle kind of low volume because the instrument itself doesn't record at a very high volume. We have this kind of complementary rhythm on the synth in the background. And what I could do is I can actually boost the track level main volume if I really wanted to make it louder. I wonder what reversing that sounds like. That sounds kind of funny. I just realized, kind of inadvertently, the bass line is very similar to Umbra Trip, you know, the early Stream Sound songs. It's faster, it's much faster overall, and the bass line progression has a couple different notes in the way it steps down. It's a little bit similar, so I'll need to be careful not to duplicate my melodies in a future song. But it does fit with the beat. And I think if we structure the progression of the song a little bit differently, since Umbra Trip is very, very straightforward, I think it's just everything all at once, a filter transition, and then everything again. I don't think it cuts out the different layers in the track. But yeah, I think I like the way this one sounds. I might tinker on a couple other details before I do the final recorded version, but I think it's pretty functional. So before we wrap up, which is the chat, what do we want to call this one? This one does have kind of a more mellow ambience to it. And the synth is kind of got this kind of pulsing type of beat to it, in addition to having really subtle changes in the melody. So maybe like a pun or a title based around the idea of a pulse. Edward says, I feel like something with step in it. Is that coming from the idea that the baseline progression is basically single steps up until the very end? So it kind of sounds like you're stepping, almost like you're stepping down a staircase, which is not the effect I was going for, but I think that works. What if we call this one Pulse Step? The rhythm is a little bit swingish too, but we already have a song with swing in the title. I kind of like Pulse Step. Edward says, I was thinking it's because of the drums. Yeah, I can hear that too. That also makes sense. Ah, man, that beat scatter possibility really frustrates me. Oh well. I'm gonna find a way to repurpose that into another track in the future. I think we can do some fun stuff with it. Yeah, transpose doesn't do a lot there. I think I'm gonna go with Pulse Step as a title for this one. I think that works. Despite this one being relatively simple, I do think it comes together decently well, aside from like the rhythm switch. So that's good. I think that will be a functional entry today. All right, let me drop the track level down here before we wrap up. And I think this was productive. I was able to accomplish what I needed for that upcoming project, and we do have another functional track for the collection. BGM Collection 2 is probably going to be out. There's actually a bunch I need to record that are just sitting here in the loop that we've done across different sections. There's a lot of them. There's probably at least 5. Maybe that one will be out in September, or I may hold off until the Halloween pack is done and release it like closer to the end of the year. I don't know, since there's a lot of tracks in there. But I think that will definitely call it a good, productive session today. Let me take a look at the list of homies and see who's online to raid. Oh. Well, Red Dragon is streaming right now, and Red Dragon is doing art. Let us go say hi to Master Red Dragon. And so let me turn this off. Do a final save, just in case. And we will go ahead and go to outro. Where's that? There it goes. It didn't load for a sec. And we will head over to visit Red Dragon. So thanks again, folks, for tuning in today. I think it was, again, productive session. I will be working on the schedule for next week, so that'll go up on Twitter when I eventually get it finalized before the end of the day today. So once again, thanks for hanging out, and I will catch you folks in the next stream. Now let us go raid Red Dragon.